We are now live. Madam Chair, please call the meeting to order.
Okay. I call this meeting of the Arapahoe County Planning Commission of August 18th, 2020 to order, and we will now call the roll.
Chair Rick.
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Here.
Commissioner Brockelman.
Present.
We are now live. Commissioner Miller.
Call the meeting
to
here.
Order.
Okay.
I'm going to mute all participants for the moment. I'm getting an echo. Commissioner Miller, you'll have to unmute yourself to speak.
I'm here.
Commissioner Saul.
Here.
Commissioner Save.
Here.
Commissioner Woolman.
Present.
All members of the Planning Commission are present. Good evening, commissioners, staff, citizens, and guests. I'm Jason Reynolds with Arapahoe County Planning, and I will be acting as moderator for this evening's online meeting of the Planning Commission. We are streaming this meeting on our website, arapahoegov.com. The agenda will be handled in the same way it would be handled for a regular in-person meeting. You may stream the meeting on our website or call in to participate. Please note that the website broadcast is delayed by 20 to 30 seconds, which was the echo we heard earlier. So if you would like to speak regarding any public hearing items, please use the call-in number. If you would like to participate live via phone, you may call 719-569-5048, and when prompted, enter the conference ID number, which is 864-117-882, followed by the pound sign, and I'll repeat that. You can listen and participate live over the phone if you call 719-569-5048. When prompted, you'll enter the conference ID number 864-117-882, followed by the pound sign. All presentation PowerPoints are available on our website, so even if you're participating by the telephone and not using the streaming option, you can still follow along with the presenters. Chair Rick, please proceed with the approval of the minutes. And you'll have to unmute yourself.
Okay, here we go. Our first item tonight is approval of the minutes from the August 4th, 2020 Planning Commission meeting. And if we have any changes to the minutes, please include that in your motion, and I will accept the motion to approve the minutes. I believe there's a couple of minor changes, Mrs. Woolman.
Yes, it's going to be hard for you to follow along with me, but I moved to approve the minutes with the following corrections, which I provided earlier to the chair. There's a correction on page 6 of the minutes, 6 lines down. The sentence should read, "He reported that," to initiate the update. Also, on line 10, same page, page 6, there's a typo at the end of line 10. The word is "were." That will be obvious once you see it because it's the end of the line. And the next correction is on line 19. It should say, "He stated that." And I think there's one more minor one. There's like an extra comma on page 3. I don't know exactly what line of that page that correction is on. And then there was a typo on a capitalization on the first page. I know that you have all of those corrections, Madam Chair, which I redlined and sent to you earlier today.
Correct. Okay, with corrections noted, Mrs. Woolman has made a motion to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
Commissioner Brockelman seconds.
Who was that?
Brockelman.
This is Brockelman.
Okay, Mr. Brockelman has made the motion, seconded the motion. Any other discussion? Mr. Reynolds, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brockelman,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Saul,
Aye.
Commissioner Save,
Aye.
Commissioner Woolman,
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis,
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The minutes are approved on a vote of 7-0 as amended. We'll now move into the public hearings portion of the agenda. The public is invited to participate in the public hearings this evening, and if you would like to comment on the public hearing items, please call 719-569-5048, and when prompted, enter the conference ID, which is displayed on the screen of the live stream, and is 864-117-882, followed by the pound sign. I will call on individual telephone numbers after the Planning Commission Chair opens the public hearing. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to address the Planning Commission on that particular topic after the staff presentation. Some of the public hearing items tonight are quasi-judicial in nature, and in order to afford all parties due process under law, the Planning Commission members must be fair and impartial in deciding whether those applications should be approved with conditions, or denied. In making that determination, each member of the Planning Commission must consider the record, which includes the staff recommendation, the applicant presentation, public comment presented during the hearing, and other written public comments offered before or during the hearing. Under law, the Planning Commission must evaluate this proposal based solely upon the record and the criteria established under the Land Development Code, which is highlighted in the staff report. It is important that each Planning Commission member remain objective and capable of considering information offered into the record during this hearing. Does any Planning Commission member believe that he or she is incapable of evaluating and voting on the application consistent with these due process requirements? If so, please speak up and describe the situation and recuse yourself from further participation in the agenda item.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Saul. I was just going to disclose that regarding both the village cases, I'm employed by the architectural firm and have worked with the developers. I don't know. I don't have any financial interest in either, or worked on the projects.
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Latsis. I do not have any interest in either of the projects. However, we have been, my firm has been a customer of the architect in the past, but we have no ties to this project or the specific architect. So I do not feel it causes a conflict for me.
All right, thank you. And there is also a second question. Does any Planning Commission member have a conflict of interest or any other matter he or she would like to disclose prior to proceeding with the public hearing items? And it sounded like the first two folks who spoke up fall into that category.
Yes, this is Commissioner Save, and I would just like to disclose that I've been in meetings outside of the Planning Commission hearings for both of these cases in my former role on the Development Committee for Foursquare Mile. That being said, I feel I have no conflict and that I can proceed tonight without bias and that I am able to be fair and impartial.
All right, thank you. And I will just ask if Robert Hill from the County Attorney's Office has any additional comments regarding the disclosures that were just made.
I would just thank the commissioners for their disclosures. In my opinion, none of those situations require, let's put it this way, none of those situations are conflicts of interest which would require recusal of the commissioner from either of the hearing items tonight.
Right. Thank you, and I will turn this over to the Planning Commission Chair for the introduction of the East Virginia Village cases.
Okay, tonight we do have 3 public hearings, and we will now consider a combined public hearing for the first 2 items, case number PP 19-002 and SDP 20-001, both related to East Virginia Village, a preliminary plat and a specific development plan. And Kat Hammer will, with the Arapahoe County Planning, will be the staff presenter. Mrs. Hammer, please begin.
Kat Hammer appears to be muted at the moment.
I was definitely muted. Good evening, commissioners. Kat Hammer with Planning in Public Works. I would like to start out by saying both of these agenda items have been properly noticed and the PC has jurisdiction to proceed. On slide 2 of my presentation, you will see a concept plan of the proposal, highlighting the building footprints as well as the green space and other amenities. On page 3, you will also see more information regarding the proposal. The slide 3 includes some proposed elevations for the townhomes. The applicant, Centric Communities, on behalf of the More Acres LLC, who is the owner of the property, is proposing a specific development plan as well as a preliminary plat to allow for 74 2-story single-family townhomes on 6.74 acres, which equates to approximately 10.98 dwelling units per acre. The proposal includes a public pocket park, private streets, water quality detention pond, 40% open space where 30% is required, 257 parking spaces where 167 are required, full access from Quebec Street, and then a right in and a right out from Colorado Avenue. On slide 4 of my presentation, you'll see a proposal, and it is titled Vicinity Map. This map indicates the parcel that is proposed for development, as well as the adjacent zoning, land use, and subdivision. On page 5 of the presentation, titled Background General Development Plan, this talks about the previous approval for this property. GDP 18-005, Colorado and Quebec General Development Plan, was approved by the Board of County Commissioners on February 26 of 2019. They did receive a 12-month extension from the Planning Division Manager, which expired on April 27th of this year, and the BOCC granted an additional 12-month extension, which is set to expire on April 27th of 2021. Staff recommends a condition of approval requiring the finalization of the GDP documents prior to approval of the final SDP and PDP documents. Please note that the applicants for both the GDP and the SDP have conducted a number of neighborhood meetings and have been present for any questions that the public may have. On page 6, titled Background Colorado and Quebec Intersection, staff did receive some comments about the Colorado and Quebec intersection during the GDP phase, which require, and in turn, a condition of approval for the GDP required the applicant to analyze alternative access options at the intersection of Colorado and Quebec. The GDP did show a full movement access. The SDP, after review of their alternative access, they are proposing a right in and right out, which is more restricting than what was proposed on the GDP. On slide 7 of the presentation, titled Background Quebec and Jewel Intersection, this slide talks about a traffic study that was conducted for this development. We did receive comments from the Arapahoe County Sheriff asking that staff look into a possible traffic signal here, but Arapahoe County cannot require or construct a signal that does not meet warrants. And the traffic study did not warrant a traffic signal at this time for this development. Please note that Denver and Arapahoe County are jointly studying this corridor, and the current study, which does account for this development, does not recommend any improvements at this intersection. And the Engineering Services Division of Arapahoe County, as well as Traffic Operations, did find that the access to be acceptable as proposed with a right in and right out. On slide 8 of the presentation, titled Discussion, Comprehensive Plan and LDC, the Foursquare mile plan designates this property as suitable for single-family residents with a density of 1 to 12 units per acre. And as stated in the staff report for both of these cases, excuse me, the proposal meets a number of policies and goals outlined in both the comprehensive plan, Foursquare mile plan, and the criteria required for approval of an SDP and preliminary plat. On slide 9, titled Staff Finding and Recommendation, this is specific to the SDP, specific development plan. Tonight, the Planning Commission is asked to make decision on the SDP as it is a step 2 of the 3-step PUD process. Staff does find that the SDP conforms to the comprehensive plan and Foursquare mile sub-area plan. It meets the Arapahoe County zoning regulations and procedures, including section 5-3.3 plan unit development, and that the specific development plan conforms to the approved general development plan GDP 18-005. Staff is recommending approval of the SBP 20-001, known as East Virginia Village Specific Development Plan, with 3 conditions of approval, as noted in your staff report. On slide 10, titled Staff Finding and Recommendation, this slide is specific to the preliminary plat, known as PP 19-002, East Virginia Village Preliminary Plat. Staff found that this application generally conforms to the comprehensive plan as well as the Foursquare mile sub-area plan, and that the plan meets Arapahoe County zoning regulations and procedures, including section 5-6.2 preliminary plat and 5-3.3 planned unit development. Staff is recommending approval of PP 19-002 East Virginia Village preliminary plat with 1 condition of approval. On step 11, titled Specific Development Plan, step 2 of the 3-step PUD process, it indicates the 4 options that the Planning Commission has tonight in regard to the SDP application. And slide 12, titled Preliminary Plat, step 1 of the subdivision process, indicates the 4 options that the Planning Commission has in regard to the preliminary plat, that is a mistake there, application. I stand for any questions, and I do have the applicant on the line who has a presentation for you, the Planning Commissioners as well.
Do we have any questions from the commission for Ms. Hammer?
Yes, this is Commissioner Sauve, and I do have one question. Kat, could you elaborate? I see in the staff report here that it says there's 40% open space, and I was wondering if we could go back to the conceptual, one of the conceptual drawings, and if you could elaborate on what constitutes that 40% open space, I would appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. I am now on slide 2 of the presentation, the proposal slide, which is showing the concept plan for this development. Open space is calculated for this project using the pocket park, which you can see on the left of your screen, as well as the long tract that runs on the west side of the property. That is a 20-foot landscape buffer, which also includes a 5-foot walk. So that is all counted towards open space, as well as the open space in between these in between the buildings. Each individual building will have a little fenced-in patio area, but there are open courtyards which count towards the public open space.
Thank you.
And one more thing to note, the detention pond is not included in that calculation.
Okay.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Chair, this is Commissioner Latsis. I have a question regarding the full access intersection at Jewel and Quebec, because I see that the Arapahoe County Sheriff is pretty concerned about it, and it looks like the traffic study is projecting that it should be sufficient through 2025. Knowing how long it takes for these cases to make it from an SDP and a plat to actual construction, that could be approaching that 2025 timeline. Is this going to be reassessed, or, you know, because like I said, I know I drive that street and I know that's going to be a pretty tough left turn there, and I know the sheriff is concerned about it. So if this thing is constructed in, let's say, 2024, what happens? You know, is there any planning and traffic engineering to assess it again for a light or something similar, should traffic be picking up by the time this comes to fruition?
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll do my best to answer that and also rely on Kurt Cotton, who is in our engineering department, if I miss anything. But like I noted previously, the traffic study was complete for this development and it is not warranted at this time. However, the Arapahoe County Sheriff did have concerns, and Arapahoe County and Denver are jointly working on studying that corridor right now. And it does account for this development. So that you know, study will continue to happen. And then I also want to note that this development it contributes to the contribution to overall traffic in this area is very minimal, or relatively small. The traffic study that they provided anticipates 3 left turns at Jewel from the site to go north on Quebec during the most congested times, which would be evening rush hour. So I will rely on Kurt to answer anything else that I might have missed.
Yeah, I can talk on that a little bit as well. So Kurt Cotton here with Arapahoe County Engineering Services Division. So the traffic study reviewed through the 2025 development horizon, and that's based on the size of the site. We kind of set the scope of how much they need to review as far as adjacent intersections as well as the time frame. So that's how that was determined. And so there is another study, a joint study by Denver and Arapahoe County reviewing it now. So there could be further joint studies in the future, you know, because once this is entitled, you know, under construction, you know, the traffic engineers, they're kind of out of it by then, the ones currently working on it. However, the kind of the issue here is there's not enough side street volume to warrant a signal, and there's, you know, no more room for development on this site, and then across the street there's not a lot of development anticipated on that side to generate more traffic to have the side movements sufficient to warrant you know, having a stop on a street light on a Quebec street there. So that's kind of where it's at. It'll you know, perhaps be studied again in the future by the appropriate jurisdictions, but it would be maybe not anticipated due to the side street volume not increasing beyond what is proposed with this development.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions for staff?
Yes, this is Commissioner Brockelman. Kat, I'm looking at exactly what you have on the screen now, and I've been looking at the drawings, etc. Where is 237 parking spots at?
Great question. Let me pull up the plan here, and I know that the applicant was going to hit on those. I think they have 37 on-street parking spaces for guests, and then each townhome unit has 2 garage spaces as well as driveway space. But I will rely on the applicant to further explain.
Okay, I'll wait for that.
Anything else?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. I guess if there are no other additional questions, I'm going to read off each commissioner, Mr. Brockerman, you're okay? Mr. Miller?
I'm fine.
Mr. Stahl?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Suave? Ms. Suave? I think you're muted.
Yep, sorry. No further questions right now.
And Commissioner Woolman?
No questions at this time.
And Commissioner Latsis, I think you already asked. Are you okay?
Yep, no further questions at this time.
Okay, we'll then ask the applicant. Thank you, Kat, for your presentation, and we will ask the applicant to begin theirs.
All right.
Chair,
My understanding.
can you please remind the applicant how to unmute themselves?
Yes, I was about to say that. Caller, please press *6 to unmute yourself. Your last 4 digits, 6259.
Can you hear me?
Indeed.
Great. Before I start, Kat, since you're going to be controlling my slide presentation, most of my slides are going to be around 30 seconds. If I need a little more time, I'll give you a heads up before I get into the next slide and say, hey, I need around a minute. So that way you kind of can gauge when to turn the next slide, because I'm not going to be looking at any screens, okay?
That sounds great, Paul. I will do that.
Okay. So I'm going to start it off. Hi. My name is Paul Shukas. My address is 200 Calumet Street in Denver, Colorado, 80223. I'm a partner at PCS Group, which is a landscape architecture and land planning shop in Denver. I'll do my best to call out the slide numbers as I progress through the presentation, in case there's some lag and so on and so forth. Kat, also speak up and just slow me down if something needs to happen. So slide number 2. First, I just want to thank the commissioners for taking the time out of your evening to listen to our application. I really appreciate you being patient with this process during the pandemic. You know, I also want to thank staff for their guidance to date, just liaisoning us through the process, and the presentation that Kat Hammer just put together. Our team's available by phone to answer any questions you might have. Curtis Williams from JR Engineering, who assisted with the civil components here, Kim Spencer with God and Sudic, Cindy Myers with Centric Communities, and myself are available to call in at any time and answer and clarify any questions you might have. So slide number 3. This is just the location of the site. You already know where it's located. The point I just wanted to make with this graphic is how the property kind of acts as a really good intermediate zone for a transition of density, with a lot of general industrial uses to the east of our property across the street from Quebec, and then the single family homes and to the west of our property within Virginia Village, and us being in the middle with single family attached homes. Slide number 4 is just a quick introduction to the applicant, Centric Communities. They're a home builder headquartered in Colorado, building townhomes, condos, single family homes, and actually 17 different states across the United States. They were founded in 2002. They became a publicly traded entity in 2014. They have 240 employees here in Colorado, and their corporate headquarters are in Greenwood Village, Arapahoe County. Slide number 5. Kat, I'm going to need around a minute for this one. So I just wanted to say that it really takes more than a design team to shape a really good infill community. I mean, it takes the input of a lot of different stakeholders to create a solid land plan. And the owner of the property has had a lot of meetings associated with the GDP and the rezoning for the property. And Century Communities has had several informal meetings with adjacent neighbors, Denver residents, and neighborhood associations. You know, as a design team, we've presented to the Foursquare Mile Development Review Committee. We had a formal meeting at Cook Park with all the adjacent residents, and we had a formal meeting with the Foursquare Mile Neighborhood Association, really all to garner feedback and input, which has really influenced the site plan in a positive way. So slide number 6. This is showing the actual approved GDP. This is just a refresher for the Planning Commission to show how this guiding document helped shape our site plan. I'm not going to go through all the requirements of the GDP. The biggest takeaway points I wanted to convey was that the zoning for this property mandated we couldn't have more than 74 units. There's going to be 10 threeplexes, 11 fourplex buildings anticipated. We couldn't exceed a certain density, which was 11 DU per acre, or 2 stories in height and 30 feet in height, or 2 stories and 30 feet in height. So, which we all have pretty much adhered to. Also, this dictated that we needed 30% open space and a minimum. This provided a minimum of 175 parking spaces. The LDC requires 165. Now, just to clarify, it's not what we're providing. It's just to revisit the minimum and maximum criteria for our site plan. I'll get to what we're providing in a moment. So the next slide. So I'll need about a minute again for this one, Kat. This is slide number 7. This is a diagram of the approved GDP, which we followed. It's still just a quick refresher. So starting from the east or right-hand side of your screen, we were required to propose a landscape buffer along Quebec Street, as well as an improved 10-foot sidewalk. And then from there, that's where the townhomes would follow. And then moving further west to the left-hand side of your screen, along our western property boundary, there'd be a 20-foot landscape buffer required, and the setback from our adjacent neighbors there. There's also anticipated to be a pocket park on the very south side of the property, and a detention pond was anticipated on the northern side of the property, which we followed. And then finally, as Kat alluded to, there was 2 full movement vehicular access points, one on Colorado Ave towards the north, and then one on Quebec Street on the western entrance of the site. So now I'm going to get to the next slide, slide number 8, which is what we're providing. So this is our site plan, which we've proposed. Kat, I'm going to need at least, this is my longest one. I'll need around 4.5 minutes for this. Just to begin, there's 74 units, just like we said before, 10 threeplexes, 11 fourplexes, just like the GDP anticipated. Starting on the north part of the site. You know, after meeting with the residents at numerous neighborhood meetings and hearing their concerns about cut-through traffic through Virginia Village, we restricted the approved full movement turn on Colorado Avenue to a right-in, right-out. So this keeps good flow within our little community here, but minimizes the cut-through traffic to our adjacent neighbors. We also created an extra turn lane on Colorado Avenue onto Quebec Street, like a right-hand turn for those going southbound on Quebec, and that'll reduce the amount of queuing for cars in line too. So staying on the east side of the site now, there's a 10-foot sidewalk that I was telling you about along Quebec Street, and then there's a 30-foot wide landscape strip as well that we're proposing. So that sidewalk, that 10-foot walk, is going to go the full length of Quebec. And then to the west of that walk, we have a tree lawn with a bunch of ornamental plantings. There's also going to be a combination of a masonry wall and an iron fence that's proposed along that eastern property boundary to buffer and add a little bit more interest to the community along Quebec Street, and even reduce some of the sound of traffic for residents. It'll be about 6 feet in height, and I'll show you what that looks like in some of the following perspectives. So the townhomes are arranged in the same fashion like you saw in the GDP. There's alleys in the rear of the buildings accessing garages, and front architecture faces those great common green courts. These are like landscape spaces that vary in size from 30 feet in width to 65 feet in width. And you can kind of see that in the blow up on the left-hand side of the slide there. Also, each front yard has an additional small little fenced-in area for small pets, adding maybe an additional 10 feet of front yard to each building. So these green spaces are going to feel like actually 50 to 80 feet in width, just with building separation. The fronts of homes face the fronts of homes. and that creates great community and a good way to get to know your neighbor. And I have perspectives to kind of give you an idea of what this will look like. So parking was something that just came up, and we really need to be sensitive to it. And like we proposed 257 spaces. I know that seems like it's hard to believe, right? But this is how it breaks out. So the GDP wanted 175. We got 257. Each townhome has got a 2-car garage. So that's 148 spaces right there. Plus you have an additional 72 driveway spaces. So not all of the aprons are driveways, but about half of them are. And then we have an additional 37 on-street parallel parking spaces. So when you add all that up, we think there's going to be ample guest parking once our pandemic passes, and can have friends and family able to gather seamlessly for hopefully a full NFL season and Super Bowl party moving forward. Moving to the west of the property and the western boundary of the site, we proposed detention where it was anticipated in the GDP. And then moving south, we have a 20-foot landscape buffer along the western edge with a 5-foot meandering walk that kind of connects the north part of our site down to the proposed half-acre pocket park. Centric Communities right now is working with the neighbors along this western edge. To have one contiguous 6-foot high privacy fence as opposed to the very eclectic fences that make up the western edge today, and the neighbors are really amiable to it. So the pocket park at the end is not exclusive. So at the southern end, it's not exclusive to this community if adjacent neighbors want to use it. We put a perimeter fence around it because of its proximity to Quebec, but there's also a connection to the existing western sidewalk that's proposed along East Asbury Avenue that's existing. And I think finally, to wrap this up, the site plan has around 40% open space, and it doesn't include the detention pond, and the GDP required 30%. So this includes the parks, the trail connections, the common front yard spaces, the landscape buffers, which I think will make a really pretty community. Okay, so moving on to slide number 9. I think I'm good now with around 30 seconds or so per slide, Kat. This one shows an example of the architecture we're proposing on the site. This is an elevation of the 4-plex townhomes. There's 2 of them on here in a modern farmhouse style architecture. Just to reiterate, they're 2 stories. They're under 30 feet in height, which was dictated by the GDP. Centric Communities has plans to offer 4 different color schemes for these buildings in 2 different architectural styles. And the base of the buildings, they'll be anchored by brick or stone exterior with additional batten board or lap siding with plenty of windows for natural light. Okay, slide number 10. This is a perspective of the western edge of the property looking north. So our neighbors are to the west of us. This is that 20-foot buffer between us and our neighbors to the west, and that trail that runs in that north-south direction to the pocket park. On the right side of the graphic is an alley which accesses garages for the townhomes. We put an additional 6-foot high fence here to screen headlights at night from shining into our neighbors to the west, and we've also kind of set that fence back to accommodate for snow storage in the winter months. And then you can see the proposed fence on the left-hand side of the perspective, which would be the privacy fence that Centric Communities is coordinating with the neighborhood group on. So slide number 11 is a perspective of one of the 30-foot wide common landscape green spaces. So this is one of the more narrow ones, which is still really generous. As you can see, the fronts of the buildings face the fronts of the other buildings, creating a really great inviting space for residents to use. You're going to have seasonal landscape and pedestrian walks that connect to other sidewalks within the site here. And you can see that the front yard has a small fenced-in space adjacent to the buildings for pets. And this is where the buildings are approximately 50 feet apart. So moving to slide number 12, this shows kind of the entrance sequence into the community. This is an example of the signage and the monumentation off of Quebec Street. So here you have front architecture facing the entry of the community, coming into the neighborhood, and then you can start to begin to see the mix of the masonry and the iron fencing along the property boundary that's facing Quebec Street. So slide 13 is showing what we anticipated now the streetscape of Quebec to look like. So this is a view looking south along Quebec, and now you can really get a sense of the rhythm for the masonry and the iron fencing that's going along the eastern property edge there. It's 6 feet in height. The iron fencing is strategically placed at the ends of those common green spaces that I just showed you to give more of that open feel into the community, yet, you know, the intent is still for the residents to feel secure from the pedestrian and vehicular traffic along Quebec Street. And then the masonry walls are placed at the ends of the alleys where the ends are proposed, you know, screening the garages and driveways from the Quebec right-of-way. So slide 14, this is a view taken from the very south part of the property, looking north along that meandering trail. And this is our pocket park. You know, we're proposing to have play equipment that accommodates kids from the ages of 5 to 12. We are anticipating having a shade trellis there with picnic tables for parents and kids to enjoy, you know, benches for seating, trash receptacles, pet stations, all the kind of stuff you'd see in a typical pocket park. There's a really nice turf area for playing or tossing the ball or just chilling in the grass, and this is around a ½ acre in size. So slide 15 and 16 are basically the conclusion to my presentation. I think Kat hit on all the points as they relate to the county's comprehensive plan, and I don't want to rehash them unless you all would like me to. We feel like there's a great infill site for single-family attached homes. We hope you like the way we've planned the community. We've used many of the goals and the policies that the county's land development code, as well as the comp plan and the GDP, set forth to help shape this neighborhood. And, you know, once again, thanks to Kat and Kurt and staff for guiding us through the process. And I hope you feel this neighborhood's a good addition to the county. With that, you know, we respectfully request your recommendation for approval and hope to move forward to the next chapter of making this community a reality. I'm here to answer any questions you might have as well as the team. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. This is Chair Rick. I will now ask each member of the Planning Commission if they have any questions for the applicant. And I will read them as they're listed here. Commissioner Brockelman.
The only question that I have at this point is I'm just kind of looking at the very southern end of the property going down towards the pocket park there. The last few units, is the fire department okay with turnaround access there and stuff?
Yes, we have a
tight.
We actually made that so that's a hammerhead turnaround, and the radiuses associated with that turnaround are accommodate fire truck movement, because obviously we don't want to compromise anybody's safety. And actually, there will be a gate at the end of, or on the eastern edge of one of those turnarounds along Quebec Street for maintenance access as well. So there should be adequate vehicular access for that unit of concern.
Okay, yeah, that gate helps me clarify that a little bit better. So thank you. That's all the questions I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Brockelman. Does Commissioner Miller have questions?
I do. So how big are the garages?
They're dimensionally, or they're 2 cars, and they're your typical 2-car garage. So they would be 18 feet wide by around 21 feet deep. And Kim from God and Sudik can answer that if I'm incorrect, but that's the approximate dimensions for those.
So at 18 feet, you'll get 2 cars in there and open the doors?
I think they're 20 by 20.
20 by 20. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
So they're 20 by 20s?
Correct.
Down there at that Hammerhead turnaround, is there parking in front of those units?
There is driveway parking in front of those units. Or no, well, there's driveway parking behind them for alley access. Am I answering your question correctly?
Or behind them, yeah.
Yes.
No, it doesn't seem like there's enough parking there, and if people were parking down there outside their units, I'm not certain that a fire truck could get back in there or not.
The parking is not associated with the actual turnaround on the alley in the road. It is an 18-foot driveway apron, which would accommodate a parked car, which is a standard parking stall, on top of the drive lane. That would be for the fire department.
Okay.
So like I said, the GDP requires 165 spaces and we're providing 257. Without trying to make this a parking lot, we also really wanted to enhance some of the green spaces that were around here. So we were trying to do our best to find that happy medium and balance between making it an aesthetic community, but still making it somewhat reasonable to have guest parking.
All right, thanks.
Welcome.
Okay, Commissioner Saul,
No questions.
Commissioner Suave,
No questions.
Commissioner Woolman.
I have a question regarding the private drive and the parking along the private drive. Is parking going to be allowed on both sides of the private drive, which looks like it would narrow that quite a bit if parking was allowed on both sides. So I don't know whether or not that was anticipated in the number of parking spaces that you're representing.
Parking's only allowed on one side of the street. That's a good question. And then there is some ADA parking that is 90 degree, but parallel parking is only anticipated or allowed on the west side of that street.
And I imagine through signage that will be accomplished, as well as the fact that there won't be any parking in the access, Hammerhead access, that's designed for the fire folks. Is that correct as well?
That is accurate. There's no parking in the Hammerhead access, and then there will be no parking signs along that western edge, or along the eastern edge, correct.
Terrific. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I'd like to clarify there that through the ASP process, we will be going through the fire lane designation process, which will allow Arapahoe County Sheriffs to enforce that no parking signage.
Great. Thanks, Kat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Commissioner Latsis, do you have any questions?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, I do have a question. So I think you'd commented that the pocket park will be public. So how is that being managed and maintained? Is that being dedicated to the county, or is the HOA going to maintain it but allow public access?
My guess is I might have to rely on Curtis Williams for this, but while it is a private park that is maintained by the community's HOA, it will not be exclusive to this community. So if neighboring residents would like to use this pocket park, they will be allowed to.
Thank
and
you.
It's not being dedicated, yeah, and it's not being dedicated to the county.
Okay, this is Chair Rick. I'm curious, how big is the pocket park?
It's around 19,000 square feet, so just under a half acre.
Under what?
It's just under a half acre. It's around
Okay.
19,000 square feet.
Okay. And is this product that you're intending to build, have you built this elsewhere, or is this something new?
The product, the townhomes
Yes.
or the park? I think, once again, Kim or Century Communities can speak to that question.
Okay, and I have one other question. The 20-foot sidewalk adjacent to Quebec, is that detached the entire way?
It's a 10-foot sidewalk and it is
10 foot. Okay.
To answer the previous question, yes, this product has been built in other locations by Century.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are now, if the planning commission has no further questions at this time, we will.
I have one more question. Sorry, I'm sorry.
It's
Madam
okay,
Chair.
Commissioner Woolman, carry on.
So initially, it's going to be proposed that the pocket park is open to the surrounding community, but it's being paid for the via the HOA dues, monthly maintenance. I'm wondering whether something will be provided in the enabling documents for the HOA to allow them at some point in the future to make it not accessible to the surrounding public. And the reason I ask that is because my parks in my community that I pay for, as well as the other homeowners, are not open to the public, nor would we ever want them to be open to the public. So I wouldn't want that to become a source of angst to the surrounding community once it's used to having access to that small pocket park, and then having that be taken away at a future time. So I wonder if you can comment on that.
I'm going to have Century Communities also. That kind of seems more like a legal question that is a little bit out of my planning expertise as it relates to HOA docs and codes and covenants and restrictions. Sorry about that. I can't answer that one.
So this is Cindy Myers with Century Communities, and I will answer that. I am not sure what particular community that you live in, but it is very common that while HOA maintain tracts within their community, that they are still open and the public can go to them. That's a very common occurrence. We want to be good neighbors to our neighbors to the west of us and those kind of things. So we would intend and make sure that it stays open for the neighborhood overall to enjoy.
Okay, thank you.
Any other final questions? I guess I'm curious, are you building these products for sale?
Yes, these will be fee simple homes.
Okay, and obviously they're going to have common walls. Is there anything special that occurs regarding sound?
Kim, there's a fire rating.
Oh, yes, we meet all the requirements for sound and fire between all the units.
Okay. So the HOA would pay for the maintenance on the exterior, or each homeowner is responsible?
The HOA would cover the exterior maintenance of the homes.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions from the Planning Commission?
Yeah, this is Commissioner Latsis. I have one more, and it's more of of interest, curiosity question. Are you planning to do anything interesting or innovative as far as green building or energy performance in this development?
I can have Century or Kim speak to that.
So I'm not sure what you would consider as interesting. I know that we do meet in a lot of circumstances exceed what is required under current codes in as far as energy efficient and those kind of things. So I'm not Other than that, I'm not sure what you would deem as interesting.
I'm just curious, like things like solar, any sort of sustainable features that you would be touting for the community.
We are not doing solar. I hadn't really thought about it, but the homes are north and south facing, so it wouldn't be a good condition for those. Usually you want east and west facing, where the major planes of the roofs are east and west facing for solar. And other than that, we really hadn't considered any other type of things.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, Planning Commission. This is Chair Rick. We will now open the public hearing and have the moderator will call on individual telephone numbers for one to participate in the hearing. And as a reminder, this is a combined public hearing for both the East Virginia Village preliminary plat and the specific development plan. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you. We currently have a number of callers on the line, some of who have already spoken as part of the applicant's presentation. I will probably still work my way through the entire list I have in front of me. Some callers may also be waiting on the very minor subdivision. However, I will work my way through the whole list. We have approximately 15 callers on the line. And I will start with who is at the top of our list of callers, which has the last four digits of 6190 and an area code of 303. Caller, please press *6 to unmute yourself and state your name and location for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to comment. Caller 6190 has remained muted, so I will move on to the next caller on the list. Area code 303, last four digits 7349. I believe that's Century Communities. Who has already spoken. The third caller I have is area code 303 and last four digits of 8315. If you'd like to speak, please press *6 to unmute yourself and state your name and location. Not getting a response from 8315. We'll move to the next caller. Area code 303 with the last four digits of 2930. If you'd like to speak, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
This is Frank and Carla Bennett, and we live at 1844 South Pontiac Way. Makes us maybe 100 yards from this development. Our only concern is that the plan calls for this right in, right out intersection onto Colorado Avenue, and people correctly identified that people might cut through the neighborhood if they could do a left out, but those same people as they return would be apt to cut through the neighborhood to make the right in turn. We would prefer that you not be able to enter from that side at all.
We have noticed, we've lived in this neighborhood for over 40 years, and over time, there's been a lot of cut-through traffic, and they speed, and they also frequently don't stop at the stop sign at Poplar and Colorado. And the problem is worse for the morning rush and the evening rush. And so that's our concern. We have a lot more neighbors now who have small children. Some of those neighbors live on Colorado Avenue, and have been concerned about this increase in traffic. So that was our concern. Otherwise, I think the community looks like it will be a nice addition.
And We also really appreciate the additional right turn lane at Colorado and Quebec. We think that'll solve some problems that we've encountered. So in general, we're quite pleased with this development. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. The next caller on the line is area code 303 with the last 4 digits of 8897. If you'd like to speak, please press *6, and it looks like you have. Oh, and 8897 has remuted themselves. Next caller is area code 303 with the last 4 digits 3010. If you'd like to talk, please press *6.
Hello?
Yes, please state your name and location for the record.
Yes, hi, my name is Jim Stone. I live at 1906 South Poplar Street. I am the communicator coordinator for the 22 homes that back up to the property in question, and I am also the correspondent with Cindy at Century Communities. So thanks for the great presentations all the way along up to this point. I have 2 quick questions. Number 1, is there any way, and again, I'm pretty naive on this subject, is there any way to prevent homeowners of these townhomes from renting out their homes once they've purchased them?
We'll collect questions and the applicant can respond at the end.
Okay. Second question is, and I've seen this in the past, it's great that you're doing the right out only and right in only on the Colorado Avenue. My only request would be that somebody oversee, and could there be somebody who would oversee that the turns in and the turn out are sharp enough so that they are actually used as they are supposed to, because if they're not, people will cheat and they'll go around and they'll go around. So my question would be, can this be overseen and governed and constructed so that they're sharp enough so that people are actually forced to use them the way they're supposed to?
All right. Thank you for those questions, and we'll ask the applicant to address those once we've gotten through the rest of the callers.
Thank you.
Next on the list of callers is the last 4 digits 6259, which I believe is the presenter. So we'll move on to area code 312, last 4 digits 6712. This caller may be present for the following item. And they have not unmuted, so we'll move on to area code 720 with last 4 digits of 2273. That caller has remained muted, so the next caller is 720 with the last 4 digits 0313. Oh, hello.
Yeah, sorry, Sharon Beer, 1884 South Pontiac Way. And I'm concerned with the right in, right out on Colorado Avenue as well. I don't see any way to restrict that without putting a median down Colorado Avenue. And I agree with the Bennett's that the right in, everybody that lives in that neighborhood is going to enter via Colorado Avenue. So I don't know how it helps us. So that's my concern.
All right, thank you. Next caller I have is area code 720 with the last 4 digits 0313. And That caller appears to have left the meeting. Next caller is area code 847, last 4 digits 8915. And they've opted not to unmute themselves, so we'll move to the next caller, which is area code 856 with the last 4 digits 5189. You may press *6 to unmute yourself if you'd like to speak. All right. Next caller is area code 970 with the last 4 digits of 7944. That caller has opted not to press *6 and unmute themselves. Move to the last caller, which is not a full phone number, but has the last 4 digits of 6687. If you'd like to speak, please press *6 to unmute yourself. And that is the last caller. I will turn it back to the chair.
Hello?
Oh. Yes, we can hear you.
All right, this is Mark Lampert, facilitator for the Foursquare Mile. For some reason, my phone number did not show up, did it?
No, it did not.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Again, Mark Lampert on behalf of the Foursquare Mile neighborhoods, 9022 East Colorado Drive. Just a few comments about tonight's presentation. First of all, I appreciate the fact of all of the cases are a Foursquare Mile tonight, so it's a bonus night for Foursquare Mile. I appreciate the Planning Commission to combine these two so that we don't have to have the presentation twice. So we thank very much the Commission for doing that. First of all, good evening, Commissioners. It's been a while since we've spoken, and that's a good thing, I think. So I'd like to also thank Centric Communities for the time and effort that they spent with the Foursquare Mile neighborhoods, both in the Development Committee as well as with the major organizational monthly meeting in December. They listened very kindly to the Foursquare Mile concepts and incorporated many of them into the GDP, so we appreciate that. We also thank them very much for working with the Denver residents that are to the west of them. It is always nice to see the fact that developers are multi-jurisdictional, so they're not just concerning themselves with the Arapahoe County residents. And likewise, I always like to compliment the Arapahoe County Planning Commission for allowing Denver residents to speak, because unfortunately, Denver planning does not allow Arapahoe County citizens to speak. So I thank you for allowing the Denver residents to speak up. One of the things that did not come up that much, and that was on Commissioner Woolman's comment about the Pocket Park. We worked with Century Communities on that. There is a trail that comes in from the west that they have agreed, and I believe you can see that on the design, that there is a path that picks up a trail. There's been a natural trail created into this vacant field right now, and I believe that Century Communities is still honoring that to pick that path up to come into the park, because otherwise there is no way that I would see residents from the neighboring homes to go all the way up to Colorado Ave onto Quebec and come in that entranceway. So that is the main entrance that we would see as the park, and that also was one of the continuities for the Aurora Park, the Aurora Trail System into Denver. So I think that, and I believe that should still be in there. I believe it is, and I'll wait to hear them confirm that that trail is still there, and it will not be gated as it was originally talked about. Also, we do support this development as it follows the 4 square mile sub-area plan. We appreciate them being within the guidelines of the dwelling units per acre, and we look forward to welcoming them to the project into the 4 square mile area. So I thank you for your attention, and I shall be standing by.
Thank you, Mr. Lambert. Is that the last caller?
Yes, Madam Chair, that was the last caller.
Okay. I am Chair Rick, and I invite questions from the PC if they want the staff to answer, or the applicant can respond from the questions that came up during the public hearing.
I'm sorry, this is Paul Schukas. Is this my chance to speak, or am I waiting for something?
This is for you to answer the questions that were raised,
okay.
Comments raised by the public.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Yes?
I will go ahead and answer the questions, or at least a couple of them that came up.
Okay.
Again, this is Cindy Myers. I'm with Centric Communities. With respect to the question of the prohibiting homeowners or buyers, once they've purchased their home, to rent it out at some point in the future, Colorado property law highly discourages those kind of restrictions, particularly in any kind of covenants. However, we are a for-sale builder, and we do not intentionally market to anybody to rent there that would use it as an investment or a rental property. So that was with regards to the question about rent. With the comments that were made and those things about the right-in, right-out on Colorado Avenue, we did a lot of studying of this intersection and determined that we chose the right-in, right-out because for a couple of reasons, and I just want to reiterate those. If somebody is coming from the west on Colorado Avenue and we were to close that off, they would still go and turn right on Quebec and go down to the other entrance, whereas if they can turn in right into the community, they would prevent some of the stacking or the queuing that occurs. We've also tried to alleviate some of the stacking that occurs by providing that additional right turn lane. If that was shut off, there's an argument that they wouldn't come down Colorado. That's not necessarily true. They would still come down Colorado. They would just go the extra half block and turn at Quebec Street instead of coming on into the community. The right in, right out prevents people from coming that are going southbound on Quebec to turn westbound onto Colorado and then make an immediate left into the community. That is not a condition that we would want to have occur if there were a lot of cars coming that way. So that's why the pork chop that creates the right in, right out would be there. We would also make sure that that pork chop, to Mr. Stone's concern, we would anticipate that that would have vertical curb on it and not roll over a drivable curb on it. So, but we will work that out during the ASP process as well. So then the connection to the park that Mr. Lambert was asking about is still there, and we do intend to keep that. I think those were the questions that I heard. If there's one that I missed, if somebody could let me know, I'd appreciate it. And I'd be happy to address.
I think you covered the questions that I heard and comments.
Chair, this is Kat Hammer. I did just receive an email from a resident in the vicinity of this project who also expressed some concerns about the right in and right out in regards to traffic on the street and children in the area. But I think that question has been addressed by the applicant, but I just wanted to get that on the record.
Very good, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments from the Planning Commission? I want to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring the items back to the Planning Commission for discussion. If there are any additional questions, we will consider those at this time. Before I call a motion on the preliminary plat or the specific development plan. Are there any questions at this time from the Planning Commission? If not, I will accept a motion regarding the proposed preliminary plat.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion in regard to the preliminary plat. In the case of PP 19-002 East Village preliminary plan, the planning commissioners have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and the public comments as presented at the public hearing. I hereby move to recommend approval of this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to condition number 1.
Okay, Commissioner Woolman has made a motion for approving the preliminary plat. Do we have a second for the motion?
This is Commissioner Save. I second that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner Sauve. Is there any further discussion? If not, Mr. Reynolds, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brockelman, Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye. Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Aye.
Commissioner Save.
Aye.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The motion on the preliminary plat passes on a vote of 7-0.
This time, I will accept a motion regarding the proposed specific development plan. Do we have someone wishing to make a motion on the SDP?
Madam Chair, this is Commissioner Latsis. I'd like to make a motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Latsis has made a motion.
Yes, so in the case SDP 20-001, East Virginia Village Specific Development Plan, the Planning Commissioners have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and the public comment as presented at the public hearing. I hereby move to recommend approval of this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to condition 1.
Okay, we have a motion made by Commissioner Latsis. Do we have a second for the motion?
Commissioner Brockelman seconds.
Commissioner Brockman has seconded the motion. Is there any further discussion? If not, Mr. Reynolds, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Aye.
Commissioner Save.
Aye.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The motion on the specific development plan passes on a vote of 7-0.
Okay, this is Chair Rick. We will now consider case number PM 19-002, the Avere minor subdivision at Cat Hammer with Arapahoe County is our staff presenter. Mrs. Hammer, please begin.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Kat Hammer with Arapahoe County in the Planning Division. The application before you tonight is a minor subdivision for a property that is located near Quebec Way. The address is 1860 and 1890 South Quebec Way. As you can see on slide 2, titled Proposal, this is a outline, or this is a depiction of what the plat will look like if approved. It'll be Lot 1, Block 1.
Pardon me, Kat, could you please share your screen?
Oh, I was so close. I'm sorry. I forgot to hit the button, but here we are. Again, we're the planning commissioners tonight. You're considering a minor plat for a property that's located near 1860 and 1890 South Quebec Way. As you can see on slide 2, this is the proposed layout of the one lot that will be created if this application is approved. The applicant, Reva Development Partners, LLC, on behalf of the property owners, Reva Highline Canal, LLC, is proposing to combine 3 existing parcels as well as a portion of an unplatted lot along the Highline Canal into one 4.17 acre parcel. The parcel is currently zoned PUD. On slide 3, titled Proposal, you will see a picture of the adjacent zoning and a blue shape that outlines the proposed site. The adjacent zoning and land use is also listed on the site and included in the staff report. On slide 4, which is titled Background, it is indicated that in May of 1948, the Sunnydale plat, consisting of 7 lots, was approved by the Board of County Commissioners, and a specific development plan was approved for a 56-unit multifamily development by the Board of County Commissioners on November 13, 2008. Administrative site plan is required for this development to go through, and that is currently being reviewed by staff. On slide 5, titled Discussion, Comprehensive Plan and LDC, this slide indicates that the Foursquare mile designates the property as suitable for multifamily residents with a density of 13 to 25 acres per unit. This proposal, or the SDP proposal, as part of that is accompanying this minor plat, it does meet the requirements outlined in the Foursquare mile sub-area plan. As stated in the staff report, there is a number of goals and policies that this plan does meet as far as the comprehensive plan is concerned, Foursquare mile, and the criteria approval for a minor subdivision. On slide 6, titled Discussion Neighborhood Comment, staff did receive 2 comments from the neighbors, one of them concerning traffic, access points, and drainage for the development. Staff has noted that all of these items were discussed during the SDP in November of 2008, and they are not much concerned for the preliminary or the minor subdivision. The other neighbor stated that they were in opposition but did not provide specific concerns. The staff planner on this project, Molly, did reach out to that individual, Molly Orkwood Larson. She did reach out to that individual to try to better understand the concerns and explain that the platting of the property is the only thing being reviewed at the hearing tonight, not the development plan or site plan itself. On slide 7, titled Staff Finding and Recommendation, you'll note that staff finds that this application does comply with the Arapahoe County Comprehensive Plan. The proposed minor subdivision complies with the approval standards contained in section 5-6.3 in the Arapahoe County Land Development Code, and it also complies with the intent and requirements contained in 5-6.6 in the Arapahoe County Land Development Code in regards to minor plats. The recommendation for this application, staff is recommending approval of PM 19-002 Sunnydale number 2 minor plat with 3 conditions of approval. On slide 8, titled Staff Recommendations Condition of Approval, you will see the 3 stated conditions of approval that staff is recommending. And I stand for any questions, and the applicant, I believe, is on the phone. And if they would like to speak, I welcome them to do that after any questions from the commissioners.
Thank you. I will now ask each member of the Planning Commission if they have any questions for staff Commissioner Brockelman?
I have none at this moment.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Miller?
None right now.
Commissioner Saul?
No questions.
Commissioner Sauvé?
No, I don't have any questions, but just for the record, I wanted to clarify that when Kat spoke about, excuse me, the excuse me, the SDP, it was 2018, not 2008, or at least that's how I heard it.
Yes,
So, that's all.
I apologize there. That was 2018, not 2008.
Yeah, okay, just wanted to state it for the record. Thank you.
Commissioner Woolman?
No questions at this time, thank you.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis?
No questions, thank you.
And I, as chair, do not have any questions at this time. So we now ask the applicant to begin their presentation.
Thank you. My name is Matt Nix. I'm a principal of Riva Development Partners. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Well, the Plan Commission was very generous with their time back in November of 2018 when we had the opportunity to present the formal SDP plan, and as Kat indicated, it was approved. So we really don't have any formal presentation. We did include a site plan just to, for everyone's, just to remind everyone the location and the plan, but we've really worked closely with staff, with the Highline Canal Conservancy, with Mark Lampert and the Foursquare Mile Group to design and watch this plan evolve into something that we're really proud of, and we're excited to be at this milestone. And with hopefully with an approval tonight, we look forward to moving ahead. So with that, I don't have any further comments, but I'm available for questions.
Okay, thank you very much. And I guess I will ask each member of the Planning Commission individually if they have any questions for the applicant. Commissioner Brockelman.
I have none, thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
I have none.
Commissioner Saul.
No questions.
Commissioner Sauvé.
No questions.
Commissioner Woolman.
No questions.
Commissioner Latsis.
No questions, thank you.
And I have no questions either. So as the chair, I will remind everybody that this is a public hearing, and our moderator will call on the individual telephone numbers to participate in the hearing, which is now open.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. We do currently have callers on the line. I see an area code 847, which is Chicagoland and may be part of the applicant's team. Extension 8915. If you'd like to talk, you may press *6 to unmute yourself. Otherwise, I will move on to area code 856 and last four digits 5189, which appears to be a New Jersey area code. If you'd like to press *6 to unmute yourself, you may comment on this application. Not seeing any unmuting. The last caller on the line is Mark Lampert. If you'd like to press *6 to unmute yourself.
I think Kat Hammer may need to remove her screen.
Thank you very much, Jason. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And we have voiced our concern. I'm sorry, Mark Lampert, 9022 East Colorado Drive, representing Foursquare Mile this evening. We did voice all of our concerns at the time. We were working very closely with the developer back in November 2018. Our comments were voiced at that time, and we thank Riva Development for working with Foursquare Mile and hearing the residents, because not all the residents that are on the other side of the canal were basically in favor of this because they were concerned about sight lines. But working through some of that, I think we finally have gotten through on some of that, and we appreciate that. So on behalf of Foursquare Mile, we look forward to welcoming this project into the Foursquare Mile area.
that is the last caller.
Okay. I guess as PEC chair, I will invite the staff to respond to the questions from the public hearing. And I think we just heard from Mr. Lampert that they approved of where we are. So if there are no other callers on the line or anybody else that wish to participate in the public hearing, I will close the public hearing and bring this item to the Planning Commission for a motion and discussion. Are there any additional questions before I call for the motion? Any commission members? Hearing none, I will accept a motion regarding the proposed specific development plan.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. In the case of PM 19-002, Avier on the Highline Minor subdivision, the planning commissioners have reviewed the staff report, including all exhibits and attachments, and have listened to the applicant's presentation and the public comment as presented at the public hearing. I hereby move to recommend approval of this application based on the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions, which are conditions 1 through 3.
All right, we have a motion made by Commissioner Woolman. Do we have a second, please?
This is Commissioner Miller, and I will second.
That was Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Okay, I see you there. Thank you. We have the motion made by Mrs. Woolman, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any further discussion? Otherwise, Mr. Reynolds, please call the roll.
Commissioner Brockelman.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Saul.
Aye.
Commissioner Sauvé.
Aye.
Commissioner Woolman.
Aye.
Chair Pro Tem Latsis.
Aye.
Chair Rick.
Aye.
The motion passes on a vote of 7-0.
Thank you all. This concludes our public hearing items, and our next Planning Commission meeting is scheduled for September 1st, 2020. Are there any other staff announcements?
This is Jason Reynolds. I did not have any. We'll defer to Jan in case she has some.
No, I just would like to thank everyone for being here and for participating, the planning commissioners and the citizens and the staff as well.
Thank you all, and I think we will now call the meeting adjourned. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ending the
Thank
live
you.
stream.